Anytime.
Okay. All right. So I was reading and doing some research about you, and I know that you are the assistant director of the Student Media Center. What are some of your responsibilities working here?
Primarily, I am tasked to advise for the radio station, for Rebel Radio, and then also I oversee the advertising efforts here. So primarily selling for the DM, but we also sell for radio, for Newswatch, and for the DM online. So advertising and radio, primarily my responsibilities here.
I also read that you were a reporter for 30 years.
Yeah.
What was your most favorable part of being a reporter?
Meeting the different people that you got to meet in reporting, and just the different challenges of the game. But it really was something different every day, and you got to meet a lot of fascinating people. And you did meet some of senators and governors and some of those folks, but you also met just some ordinary average people that were doing some wonderful things, and that was probably the most fun is folks like that and getting a chance to tell their story.
How do you think journalism has changed as a whole from when you started working to now?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the changes have been remarkable. Primarily, the biggest change, social media, has just absolutely turned everything upside down. When I started in reporting, I mean, we were all working towards get something on the 6 o'clock news. And that now it's a 24-hour cycle. I mean, social media, the internet, you are reporting. There's no such thing as we got to hold a story for the 6 o'clock. We're doing it's breaking immediately. I think that's a game. It's absolutely changed everything. So yeah, it's a completely different world than what I started in. Absolutely.
Where do you think you would be if you weren't the director of the SMC?
Gosh, unemployed. No. Oh gosh, that's a good question. Probably, I guess, still involved in television. I mean, that was the career I had before. General manager at some stations. I probably would have stayed there. I don't know. I mean, this is where I want to be, and I haven't thought of being anywhere else, but probably back in television.
What advice would you give to an up-and-coming journalist?
Stay with it. Just be aggressive, be tenacious, stick with it. It can be a tough field to crack, but you can find that job. Just be willing to take. You may have to go to a small market. You may do a part-time gig somewhere, but just if this is what you want to do, pursue it. Just stay at it. And if you want to be a reporter, go report. If you want to be a producer, be a producer. Know what you want to do and go do it.
Okay.
All right. What would you be if you weren't here?
I know.
I would say unemployed.
I'm not sure that's gonna be. They're making me think this morning. I don't know.
Thank you again so much. I really enjoyed
I'm
it.
going to my wife. If I wasn't here, I'd be home too much.
Yeah. So start.
Okay, all right. So I saw that you had studied in Arizona and West Virginia, and you had worked in California and also Louisiana. So how did you decide to kind of set roots here in Oxford?
The job was here, and so and didn't really know a whole lot about Oxford, or we had been here one time to Square Books to a book signing, and that was about all we knew about it. But did some research, was very impressed with what was happening at the university, and particularly at the Meek School. And so when I saw the job, I applied for it and was lucky enough to get it.
So how do you feel that the journalism instruction now, today, and here is different than when you were a student?
Yeah. Oh, it's light years different. One of the things that and I think is so terrific that we do now and do here at Ole Miss is the students are getting hands-on training. I mean, I tell the kids that come here like for Newswatch that they're doing small market TV. And when I was in school, it was much more, it was still lecture, classroom. It was hard. Weren't getting you had to really go outside of the classroom to find that hands-on experience. I worked with the athletic department to get some experience shooting video and putting together video stories because there was no class offered to do that. So yeah, it's changed. I think there's a much better focus on actual training, and that's crucial in journalism. And when I was in school, it was still much more focused on just the lecture and being in the classroom, and you weren't getting the actual training that you got to have for journalism.
So how do you feel that student media, because we have these options here, how do you feel that that's beneficial for students?
It's incredible. I mean, like I tell the students to come through, I mean, the radio station, you're working at a real radio station. You're doing exactly what you would be doing at a commercial radio station. Come here and do News Watch. You're doing small market TV. This looks like what I did in Eureka, California. It's just incredible experience because you really are honestly doing the 480 class. You're going out and doing reporting like you would on a job. You get an assignment in the morning, you got to turn it for the newscast at night. You're getting actual practical experience. This is what you're going to do in your job.
So with the radio station, I know that they're the Q105 station. I was talking to Stephen Miller, and he called that your guys' competition station. So how do you feel that would you consider that healthy or not healthy for the students to have that competition here?
Competition's always healthy, and we look at it, I mean, we are obviously trying to compete in the market, and we're not, like I tell the students, that radio's fun, but we're not playing radio. We're a real radio station. Our signal gets out much further than just the campus. So yeah, we do compete, but it's a very healthy competition, and it's very good for the students because, again, that's the real world. But we also look at it, we're trying to give the students experience, and like tell them if we make a mistake, nobody dies, and we're okay.
Right.
So,
okay.
So it's just we're learning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys got a much better education than I got 30-something years ago. They really did. They didn't give us the. I mean, because journalism, you have to have. I mean, it doesn't matter. You get your degree, that's great. But if you can't show them, here's the work I did.
Right.
You know, and you can come out of here saying, here, I got some work done, and we just didn't have those opportunities. So.
Mr. Frostenson today. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great.
You're doing good. So I have a couple questions for you. My first question, why the switch from being a news director and being a general manager of a news station to instructing and teaching?
Yeah, my wife asks that question every day. No, I'm kidding. It's just because it's something that, it really is something that I had always wanted to do, was in the back of my mind to do. Way back early in my career, I had taught as an adjunct professor at a local university in Monroe, Louisiana. Thoroughly enjoyed that experience and just told myself at some point I'd like to do that full time. This opportunity came up and I said it's now or never, and came here and haven't regretted it since.
And so now you oversee Rebel Radio here.
Yes.
Why the switch from TV to radio?
Well, because I worked in radio too. Did some radio, and that was the opportunity here, and it's just been a lot of fun to work with the radio station, and I've enjoyed that very much. But it's really broadcast, and I have my experience with broadcast, so radio, and I've done radio too. So.
And now you teach media sales also here. So that's a little different. How did you get kind of into media sales?
Well, as a general manager, I spent the last 14 years of my career, 30-plus years career as a general manager in a station, a CBS station in Monroe, Louisiana, NBC out in Eureka. And as general manager, sales is really a primary focus job. So that's really the sales experience. So I had the experience in the background to teach media sales, and have just enjoyed doing that also. But that comes from being the general manager.
From the general
stations,
manager.
Yeah.
And now you have lived in places like Arizona State, West Virginia, California, Louisiana. Now you're here in Mississippi. A bunch of different cultures. How have all the different cultures had an effect on you?
Oh, and you're absolutely right. It has been very much different cultures. I've enjoyed every one of them. They've all had different aspects to it. I've enjoyed them. And I will say, and again, I know this sounds the stereotype of the South, that people are more friendly and welcoming and stuff. It is really true. It very much is, and that's one of the things that we've noticed. But I've enjoyed everywhere we've been, and enjoyed the culture, and it's been fun to be in different cultures like that.
And now has the different cultures, like, how's that affected your work?
I think it is, I think my work reflects it. I mean, I think that anything, if you're doing a good job, particularly in journalism, you are reflecting the culture that you're in, and the town or the locale, the market that you're in. So I think I've taken a little piece of all of that with me wherever I go, and hopefully it's made me a better journalist, a better person.
And now, what advice would you give to future journalists, kind of trying to decide what they want to do? What advice would you give to them?
I would tell them that it is a wonderful career. It can be a frustrating career. It can be a difficult career, but at the end of the day, it is very rewarding. And if this is what you want to do, do it. Just stay aggressive. I know jobs can be tough, sometimes fun, but there are jobs out there. You just have to keep after them and keep going. But it's a great job, and my advice is just go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Frostenson, for meeting with me.
Enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Faith is a cheerleader.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you really?
Sometimes on the weekends.
Good for
Getting
you.
on a scholarship all for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep.
Wow.
I liked it. A little scholarship.
Yeah, well, this is the real deal, getting time cues and everything. And that's how it works. They don't want you going any longer. You gotta cut it off.
All right, start at any time.
How are you doing today?
Doing fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
So, why did you decide to relocate to Louisiana as well as California to start off your career?
Because that's where the job was. And in broadcast journalism, you go where the job is. Had never been to Louisiana, had never thought of working in Louisiana, but they offered me a job, and that's where I was going. In fact, I actually had two jobs. It was Green Bay, Wisconsin, or Monroe, Louisiana. And I was actually going to go to Green Bay because it's a bigger market, and then they changed their mind at the last minute, so I went to Louisiana.
Okay, so how did your family feel about the relocation?
I'm an only child, so I mean they weren't mom and dad, but they were very supportive of me, and they knew this is what I wanted to do. So they were just happy to see me employed. So they were fine with it.
So, how did you get into teaching here at Ole Miss?
Part of the job that I'm the assistant director here at the Student Media Center, but part of the job was also to teach one class a semester over journalism, and it was something I wanted to do. I had some previous experience in the classroom in Monroe and had thoroughly enjoyed it, so it was really a part of it, and it was just part of the package that I took to get here. But and I've really enjoyed being in the classroom.
What are some tips that you would give students who want to get into advertising and media sales? Because I know that's what you teach here at Ole Miss.
One, I'll tell you, there's jobs out there. One advice I'll give them, if they're interested, come talk to me, because I've got some folks I can send them to. People are always looking for good salespeople, and so the thing is just to look for the jobs. They're out there, and if sales is what you want to do, you can find an opportunity to do it.
Why do you feel that it is important to continue continuing education here at Ole Miss?
For myself, or
why do you think that it's important that students continue in education here at Ole Miss?
Oh, I think it just expands your world. I mean, it really does. There are so much that you learn in an environment like Ole Miss, not just from the classroom, but just being here, being in the environment, being in an academic setting. It truly does, I think, expand your world, and that's important.
Okay, so.
That's probably all
Okay.
we have time for.
All righty.
Okay, good. So do you want to go into media sales?
I don't necessarily, but I did it in high school. I was in advertising for the newspaper in high school. But
Well, I tell you, I mean, it's, now look, it's.
Where they don't me out of the corner of your eye, because I'm going to give you the cues.
Okay, all right, great. So in your 30 years of experience in broadcasting, what has been the most challenging part for you?
That's a good question. At 30 years, that just makes me old, doesn't it? But the most challenging part probably is just the day-to-day storytelling, and it's something I really enjoy. But that was always the challenge, to find something that was a interesting story to tell, intriguing story, and you got some help on it sometimes. But a lot of it, the reporters were expected to generate their own stories, and that was probably the most challenging, but thoroughly a lot of fun. Now, from the management side, when I got into management, certainly the most challenging was keeping the station profitable and working with the different people that you worked with and some of the egos you worked with in TV, but enjoyed that part of it too. But reporting, the challenge was just to be able to tell an interesting story and to do it on a day-to-day basis, a daily basis.
All right, cool. So did you ever have a moment in your career when you really felt like you had made it and you were really successful?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I made it yet, but I guess I can remember the first time that somebody actually, acknowledged like, hey, I saw a report you did and it was a good story. No, I don't know that there was any moment that I thought, hey, I've arrived or anything. I know there were some times when I did some stories that you actually felt like, hey, they did some good. They made a difference. And it could have been just a feature story that made people smile or something. But there were times like that when you felt like, hey, maybe I'm doing something right here or doing a good job. But yeah, I'm not sure I've arrived yet. I'm not sure I've made it yet.
Well, some people might beg to differ. So what made you switch to higher education?
It's something I really have wanted to do. I'd wanted to do for a long time. Actually, way back when I was an assistant news director at a station in Monroe, Louisiana, I worked a couple years as an adjunct professor at the local university and just thoroughly enjoyed being in the classroom. And so always thought that at some point I'd like to do it. And it got to a point where in my career, my life, if I didn't do it now, I was never going to do it. So,
yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your favorite part about being the assistant director of the student?
Oh,
Media
absolutely.
Center?
Working with the students. I mean, that absolutely. It sounds corny, but it does keep you young. It really does, to be around young people and to see that eagerness and just to work with them and then see them break through and accomplish something with just little things doing, but working with the students here, absolutely. I mean, we have a great staff here, great group of students, and I work primarily with the radio folks, but it's just wonderful that's really the fun, is working with the students.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Sure.
And this was fun.
Enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too.
That was a really good question about when did you know you made it?
Well, that stumped me.
Sorry.
No, that was good.
That really made him think.
That absolutely did. Yeah, that really did. That made me, I had to really think about that.
Was a good closed-ended question. When did you know you made it?
Yeah.
I mean, that has to
No,
get some response.
it does. That makes you.
Because I don't think I've made it.
Yeah.
You look at
Oh, okay. I was just going to do something.
or Mr. Frostenson,
Okay.
whatever you want to call him.
Okay.
All right, go.
Okay. So I first wanted to start off by talking a little bit about your background and your career. What made you, or why did you decide to earn your degree in broadcast journalism?
From a young age, it's really all I wanted to do. Actually, ideally, my dream job is I was going to do play-by-play for the LA Dodgers,
Okay.
but Vince Scully wouldn't give the job up, so I had to go elsewhere. But it's just something from a young age, really about junior high on. I wanted to be a reporter, wanted to be in journalism, and particularly broadcast, and really wanted to do sports. There were more jobs in news, so I ended up in news and didn't look back. But it was just something I wanted to do from a young age.
Awesome. And then how did you, once you earned that degree, how did you begin your career with that degree?
Started in radio, and then and worked when I was in college. Worked in radio at an AM station in Phoenix, and as a sports reporter. And then when I was in graduate school, West Virginia, worked at a PBS station, TV and radio there. So started part-time jobs, and then eventually found a job. It was actually a summer temporary job, and it worked into a full-time job. Got down there, and I guess they were impressed enough to hire me full-time, so I worked that. But started part-time in radio, and then moved into TV.
And then what were some of your experiences like in TV?
It was a very good experience. I enjoyed reporting. I also spent probably the last half of my career in management, and I'll tell you that management paid a lot better, but reporting was a lot more fun. But I enjoyed it. The biggest thing that I think was the most enjoyable was you met different people every day. You might be interviewing the governor one day, and the next day interviewing a little old lady who was knitting Elvis, handkerchiefs or something. And so it was just fun. It really was. It was challenging, and it was fun to meet a lot of different people and see a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I see that kind of going through the broadcast journalism degree here, that every day is kind of different. So as an aspiring news anchor and reporter like I am, what advice would you give out to someone, going down that career path?
Be tenacious and keep trying. It's a difficult, again, the old adage, it's hard, your first job's the hardest one to get. It is no more, it is very true in broadcast. But be tenacious, keep going after it, don't get discouraged. Look for, even if it is part-time things or internship things that are paid, those are the ways, because you've got to build a body of work. But the biggest thing is don't give up. If you really want to do this, you will. And there are jobs out there. You just have to keep after them and be aggressive and go after them. But and that's, I think, see a lot of people, they give up too quickly, and don't do that. Just keep going after it, and you'll be there.
Well, great. Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant keep going.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is wrap.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, go.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
Okay. When you went to Arizona State University, what made you decide to become a journalism major?
Oh gosh, I mean, I knew that before I got to school. I wanted to be a reporter. I actually wanted to do play-by-play for the LA Dodgers, but I couldn't get Vince Scully to give up the job. But I wanted to be a reporter. Specifically, I wanted to be a sports reporter, but probably from junior high on. So I went to Arizona State knowing I wanted to be in journalism.
That's good. What made you decide to move from Arizona State after college to go to West Virginia University for a master's degree?
Well, the truth is that I hadn't landed a full-time job in journalism, and it was either go to school or move back home with a part-time job, and I thought, I'm going to go to school and see another part of the country. They offered me an assistantship, so paid for my schooling, and I went off there, and I'm glad I got the master's because it's allowed me to be here.
Would you suggest for journalism graduates in the bachelor level to go to a master's program? If
It
not
depends
hired?
on what your eventual career aspirations are. If what you want to do is report, go report. Get your bachelor degree and go report. Now, if you've got, I want to do a little bit more on the my academic side, my knowledge side, certainly the master's is a great way to do that. But my advice is, if you want to be a reporter, go report.
What were your best college memories?
Oh gosh, just the friends I made in college, and some of the relationships that I still have to this day from folks that I first met in college. Really, the people are the best memories.
Did you do anything crazy like most people do?
I'm an old man, so I don't remember those things anymore. Nothing that I want to talk about. No, I don't remember anything real crazy.
Okay. You moved around a lot, from Louisiana to California. What made you finally decide to come to the University of Mississippi to be a professor?
It's something that had always been in the back of my mind. When I was earlier in my career, I taught as an adjunct professor at Northeast Louisiana University. Thoroughly enjoyed that experience, and always told myself at some point I'd like to do that. Just got to a point in my life and career, said if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. This opportunity came up. Meek School had a great reputation, and I thought this is it, and I was lucky enough to land the job.
Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Do anything crazy. Now that one out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't answer.
No, nothing I want to Nothing I want to answer.
Yeah, I recall several crazy incidents.
But thank God the internet didn't exist then. So see, that's the problem now. You do something stupid now and the whole world knows it, When we did something stupid, only a few people know it,
I have to tell you, don't be late. Okay? What happened?
I emailed you last week about my advisory.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that.
I thought I should have reminded you too.
Yes, you should have. You should have, but I'm glad you got the advising done.
A drop down for you, the president and then me. This kind of it's kind of going to be a disappointment now.
Always start a question with "Hey."
I know.
That was adorable. He thought it was adorable too. Daniela was asking him a question, and she started with "Hey," and he said "Hey."
So I had like 15 minutes of fame on Vine because it was like.
That's terrific, though. I think that's wonderful. That's fabulous.
To be known.
And the point is, you were prepared and ready at that moment. I mean, you didn't know that was going to happen. You were prepared and ready at it.
I know. The moment I saw him, I was like, because everyone's hands was up every now and then, and I was mainly listening because I'm not that familiar with politics like these other students were, and so. But the moment I saw him, I was like,
That's great. And that's JOUR and being prepared. That happens.
So how's your day been?
So far, so good.
Good, good. How has your time been at the Student Media Center?
Oh, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been wonderful. Primarily, I'm working with the radio station and with the advertising students, and that's what a lot of my career was spent in reporting and then later on in management. So it's still kind of keeping my toe in that world, which I enjoy, and then I also get to teach a class at the journalism school. So having a great time.
Yeah, I learned that you were a reporter, then a news director, then a general manager. Why the switch?
Paid better. Honestly, some of it was just, it wasn't like any grand plan that when I started out reporting, but reporting, I had an opportunity at the station I was at to move into a management position, and it was a good opportunity, and I took it. So there wasn't any great grand plan. It just was being in the right place at the right time and having the opportunity to do it. And I enjoyed every step of the way, enjoyed every job I've had. So.
And how did you get your start into reporting?
Started working at a radio station while I was still in school at Arizona State, did sports reporting, which was great. I mean, I would call in from Phoenix Suns games. You had to unhook the phone and hook your alligator clips to the old phone and call it in that way. But it was great because I was doing live reporting. So I got started in radio, worked a little bit more in radio, and then landed a job in TV and never looked back.
Would you say you've seen have you seen a difference in journalism when you first started compared to now?
Oh my goodness. Night and day. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest game changer, the internet, social media. I mean, when I started out, you were working towards, we got to get our story on for the 6 o'clock news. And that was the whole focal point. And that's just no longer the case. I mean, it's a 24-hour cycle, and you are just constantly, we've got to get the story on immediately. That's completely changed, and I think it's some of it good, some of it bad. But yeah, the world is completely upside down when I started in journalism, absolutely.
And now journalism has a stereotype, or there's this phrase of fake news.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's fake. I mean, I think, look, that's the easy thing to do when you don't like the truth of the story. You just label it as fake news. And that bothers me, and that worries me, because I think it's too easy now to just discount it and say, oh, it's fake news. Is there bad reporting out there? Of course there is. But I think if you look at the mainstream media, the bulk of that reporting is still absolutely accurate and fact-based. And so this whole thing of fake news, I think it's a disturbing trend.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Sure, thanks. Okay.
Joe's here.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be the last.
Oh, you're supposed to be the last. Okay.
Jackie's really smart.
Is she?
We need to keep her around.
Oh,
right.
I appreciate it.
Okay. That's just going to intimidate me now.
Oh.
Okay.
Good? Okay. All right, so today I have with me Roy Frostenson, and we're going to be talking a little bit about your career, and so I'm pretty excited. So tell me first off, how did you choose journalism, and what kind of launched your career?
I chose journalism because it really, it's what I wanted to do since I was a young boy. Probably about junior high, I guess I kind of focused on it. First I was going to be a cartoonist, but then I couldn't draw, so that didn't work. So I really did want to be in particularly sports journalism. There were more jobs in news, though, so I ended up working into news. But it was just something I really always wanted to do, and didn't ever regret it. I enjoyed the aspects of reporting, the challenges of reporting, but it was something that, and so that's why I went to school specifically, because I knew I wanted to be a journalist.
And you won an award for an investigative series, and so tell me, what brought you from being so active in professional broadcast to student media?
It's just something that that always was in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. Way early in my career, I actually worked at the local university while I was assistant news director and worked as an adjunct professor, and just thoroughly enjoyed my time in the classroom, and always told myself that at some point I'd like to do that. And this opportunity came up, and so I thought, I'm at a point in my life and career, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So jumped off with a leap of faith and haven't looked back since.
Well, you lived in Arizona, Louisiana, West Virginia. So tell me, how is media in Mississippi, and in particular Ole Miss, different than those other locations?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know that it's really the journalism any different? The area is certainly different, and that always is reflective in your journalism because at its best, journalism is local, and you're covering the local. So that, but I think it's good journalism here, and it looks the same in Mississippi as it does in Arizona. The stories change based on the region and the city, but I don't think the journalism changes. I really don't, and I think does a great job.
Mm-hmm. You teach a media sales course, and I saw that one of your students, Laura Marcucci, actually got a huge job with Blake Tart, who owns the real estate firm, just because he came to visit your class.
Absolutely.
So how do you think the connection between Ole Miss alumni and current students really benefits the students for career opportunities?
That's a great example. I mean, but Laura, he came to class, he talked to class, and actually invited students, hey, if you're interested, talk to me. She followed up, she pursued it, obviously impressed him and got a job. But I think there's a great network, and I've really been impressed with Ole Miss alumni. They really do. The school matters to them. They give back. They continue to give back, and certainly I see that through the Meek School. And it's very important. It's great to have that as an undergraduate, to have that kind of support network out there and to help in job searches. So I think it's a wonderful thing, the alumni here.
Well, I want to just thank you so much for meeting with us today and for sharing your thoughts.
Enjoyed it. Thanks.
You did your research.
I did.
You found out about that student.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty good. I wish I could take credit for it. She did all the work. I just brought him in to talk to my class. But
well, she would have never gotten that job if you hadn't.
Very true.
All right.
So,
That's right.
That's cool.
All right. You guys ready?
We're
Yes,
ready.
ma'am. Hello, today I'm here with Mr. Roy Frostenson at the Student Media Center, the SGL Daily Student Media Center. And Mr. Frostenson has a decorated past with investigative journalism, writing, radio, pretty much a multimedia journalist. And today I have the opportunity to ask him a couple questions. Mr. Frostenson, how did you begin your career in journalism?
Actually in radio, when I was in college at Arizona State. I had a job at, that was back in the day when AM, when people still listen to AM, but big powerhouse AM, and did sports reporting. And got my start there and did Arizona State sports and Phoenix Suns. And that's how I got started. Started in radio and then eventually moved to TV and then worked most of my career in TV, but started out in radio.
We're here at the University of Mississippi, where the Student Media Center is, and obviously we know how important it is for schools to develop the foundation in journalism. How well did Arizona State develop your foundation for the ethics and just the hard fundamentals of journalism?
Well, you know, it's interesting, and one thing that I appreciate being here at Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss does a terrific job of actually preparing journalists for what they're going to do. When I was in school at Arizona State, we had just started a campus radio station. It literally started while I was in school there. There was no broadcast. We had to work through the athletic department to actually shoot and get a video. So a lot of what we were doing was still classroom instruction, and journalism, you have to do it. I mean, you need the classroom instruction, but you've got to do it. And I think that's wonderful here at Ole Miss, where we've got the 480 class and the students are actually out reporting. I didn't get a lot of that. So a lot of it was I had to learn on the job when I got my first job. And the training was kind of, okay, kid, you're a reporter, go report. So you learned a lot. And it was great that way. You learned a lot that way. But school, where a lot of my school was more classroom lecture and not the hands-on experience, which you absolutely have to have for journalism.
And a lot of times with journalism, you made a good point. A lot of the things that you learn in the field, you're learning things on your own. And that's really where you develop your basic memories of the things you need to make deadlines and things like that. How hard was it for you to develop your own work skills in the field out of college?
Well, you learn a lot. One of the first things that I learned, I used to handwrite out like scripts and stuff, learned very quickly. Again, nowadays it'd be a computer, but then it was a typewriter. You better sit down and bang them out on the typewriter, just move yourself along. The other thing I found is that you had, if I had 5 hours to do a story, it took me 5 hours. If I had an hour, I did it in an hour. You learn to adapt. And I did always find myself that the more time I had, the more time I'd take. So deadlines are a hard thing, but you learn as you go. And yeah, you can't miss a deadline. So you learn that. But a lot of it was, you learned as you went. That was what was fun about journalism, is it was something different every day, and that was exciting. But a lot of it was, you're right, just on-the-job training. You learned as you went.
Thank you for joining me here today.
Yeah,
and
enjoyed it.
thank you for allowing me to ask you these questions. It's very important for people to know the answers. And again, have a nice day.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
See what I was saying? If you ask the right, all right. Me at any time.
Okay.
All right.
So tell me a little bit about where you're originally from and how it is different or the same as Oxford.
Oh, I'm very different. I'm actually born and raised in Southern California, in Long Beach, California, the LA area. Now, I spent 25 years in Louisiana, so that's why I sound like this. But and have spent most of my life post-college in small towns. But I grew up in LA, really, in the LA metro area. So, yeah, night and day between that and Oxford. But I'm a small-town country boy now. I like small towns.
Would you ever go back?
No. Too many people.
So describe your job here at the SMC, kind of what it entails, and what inspired you to begin working with a student media outlet.
First, I'm the assistant director here at the Student Media Center. Primarily, I'm involved with, I'm the advisor for the radio station, Rebel Radio, and then I'm over the advertising department here, where we're selling advertising for primarily the DM, but also for Newswatch, radio station, and online. So radio and advertising, what I do here at the SMC. How I got here, it's just something that way back early in my career, I did some teaching at a local university as an adjunct professor, really enjoyed being in the college setting, being around college students, and it was something that in the back of my mind I always wanted to do. This opportunity came up, and I thought, it's now or never. So we took a jump, and here we are.
So kind of describe how your positions have changed over the years. I saw that you were a general manager, and then you were...
Started out as a reporter. So
news director.
Yeah, I started out as a reporter and then worked into management. Was a assignment director, assignment editor, assistant news director, and eventually general manager. And I'd like to tell you that I had some great game plan to make all these. A lot of it was just opportunity. You were in the right place, and they said, hey, look, Frostenson's still here. Let's promote him. So it worked well for me, but I didn't have any great grand plan for it. From a personal standpoint, reporting was the most fun, enjoyed that the most. GM paid a lot more, though, so, and I enjoyed that, too. But that was, yeah, I came up the news side instead of the sales side to GM, which is normally the way it worked. But it all worked out for me, and just a lot of times being in the right place at the right time.
So kind of describe the life of Roy Frostenson 20 plus years ago. What was the everyday life, you know, as far as your career goes?
Okay, 20 years ago, let's see, I would have been, I think I'd have still been reporting there, and it might have been in management. So a lot more hectic, and working a lot more odd hours, worked weekends and nights and that kind of thing, because when news broke, that's what you did. That's what you had to go. So it was a little more hectic, I guess, and like I say, working a little more odd hours, working in a newsroom, which was challenging and exciting.
I had more questions.
All right.
It was nice meeting you, though.
Nice to meet you. Enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. Whoa, don't walk up with the mic. You get your mic plugged on. Yeah.
I completely forgot about this thing.
Yeah, and you always have more questions than you get the chance to ask. You always do.
Thank you.
Was that the last one? No, there are two more.
Two more. Wow, it's flying by. Have we done Have we really done that many?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock now.
Is it really?
Oh, really?
Well, it's just time's flying when you're having fun. Yes, it is. Well, I get to talk about myself. My favorite.
Okay, so first, Mr. Roy, I'd like to applaud you for over 30 years of experience in broadcasting. And through some of my research, I've seen that you started off at Arizona State with a BS in broadcast journalism. And then from there, you kind of jumped around all over the state. So I guess my first question for you as a senior here is, how did your degree from Arizona State influence you and push you towards getting a master's from West Virginia University?
Well, you want the real truth? I didn't have a job, and so I went to graduate school to forward it. That's really the truth of it. But I got out of Arizona State, was working part-time, Didn't land a full-time job, had a chance to go to West Virginia as an assistant. Don't regret it. It was a wonderful experience, but that's actually how I ended up at graduate school with a master's degree. The one thing that that allowed me to do was this job here, so I'm fortunate for that with West Virginia. Advanced, it was a lot more advanced studies and more of the some of the ethics and theories of journalism, and which have served me well.
Great, awesome. Shoot. So why did you choose West Virginia? Just the opportunity?
You know, I wanted to see another part of the country, and they offered me an assistantship, so they were paying my way. But I wanted to see another part of the country. I was born and raised in California, went to school in Arizona, and it seemed exciting, and went there. And little tidbit though, I actually met my wife there, so we've been married 34 years now. So West Virginia worked out good for me.
Okay, and so how did your master's influence your career today?
It allowed me to get this job, really. I mean, I spent 30 years plus in broadcasting, enjoyed it, eventually worked up where I was general manager at a couple stations, but reached a point in my life and career where academia was something I always wanted, had back of my mind to do, certainly teaching, and the master's degree allowed me to do it. So that's why I'm here.
And how did you get into media sales today, teaching?
Basically because of general manager. I was general manager of TV stations, and if you're general manager, you're running the whole thing, but you're really primarily focused on the sales side of it. So I had a lot of background in sales from television, and so when I got here, that made a natural fit to teach media sales, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and enjoyed the class. And it's very challenging. Sales are what make it go, so you can't do the journalism if you're not selling some commercials. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Roy, and for answering some of my questions today.
Very good. Glad to do it.
How'd I do? I'm too nervous.
Fine. Awesome was not.
I know. I knew it, and I was saying it in my head. Don't reply, Sally. Don't reply. Because I could just keep talking. I'm like, you have to stick to questions. Stick to questions.
Your questions were good.
Okay.
I agree.